And here he is. He's one of the last guys we've caught up with, Jason Ehrlich, one of the AFC and ABT pioneers, mate. Good to see you still kicking around the industry, mate. You're still writing for the magazine. You're making a few lures and obviously doing a little bit of fishing.
Yeah, still do plenty of fishing, mate. It's been good since all the COVID restrictions sort of eased in Queensland and been able to get out a lot, and it's opened it up for us guys. We're lucky we can go wherever we want now, so just waiting for some good weather.
Yeah, that's what it's like, mate. And look, of course, you live in, you're still living in Toowoomba, like the heart of Bass Country.
Yeah, so just north of Toowoomba, we're at Highfields, and it's only like 10 minutes drive, so it's kind of good. We're surrounded by bass lakes, like all within an hour's drive, and then, the cod lakes aren't too far either. Like the closest cod lake's Kubi, which is closed. It's 15 minutes, but yeah, so the cod lakes are only 2 hours away too.
Do you reckon those Kubi fish have finally opened their mouth since Carl left and has stopped flogging them to death?
Probably. There might be some new ones there that don't know him.
Mate, one of your home lakes is Somerset, and one of the things we've read in the magazine for years. We've seen a lot of pictures on your social media feeds. You seem to be the master of those enormous Somerset bass, and we've got a Somerset bass tournament on in probably about 5-6 weeks' time. Are we hitting it at the right time of year?
You have entries closed for that yet? I was going to ask you that.
Mate. No, we're still actually taking entries for Wivenhoe, which is before it. So we've got Wivenhoe in another week, and then in Somerset about another 4 weeks, I think it is. So
no, it is a good time. It's definitely the right time of year. It's just a matter of whether the bass are ready to chew at that time. There'll definitely be big bass there. But if you time it normally in August, I reckon it's always around that first bit of really good weather. So like you get some nice warm days. If you get a run of that sort of unseasonably good weather in winter, those bass will chew, and that'll kind of be just like the switch. And if you get these tough winters, like this winter's pretty tough, generally it's going to be a good spring.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm thinking that, and that normally starts in August, that bite.
Yeah, well, we're hoping we get it right this year. I know last year we were plagued by some really strong westerlies. The last of those winter westerlies sort of got it. But, hey, what's the chance of that happening 2 years in a row,
You never know. It's that time of year, isn't it, that you sort of take a bit of a gamble. But once again, those fish are going to be big. Like, guys I don't know, it's just the best time to fish at comp, because I remember when I did comps, you could go out and do that first session, and if you had a poor session or caught no fish, it was really hard to make up ground. But if you go to that Somerset comp, it's not impossible to go out and catch like a 7-kilo bag for one session. So, you're never out of that, really.
Well, mate, nowadays at Somerset, it's a 4-fish bag. So, mate, you can make that a 12-kilo bag now.
Yeah.
Mate, one of the memories I have with you on Somerset is writing a story for the old Fishing Queensland magazine about throwing jerk baits on the edges, and it's sort of nearly a lost technique nowadays, like that real cold water bite at Somerset when those big bass come shallow. Do you reckon if you went and threw jerk baits in that tournament, you'd be rewarded?
If you went and threw jerk baits there now or at Wivenhoe now, definitely. Yeah, I think you'd catch fish. Leaving it that extra month, like in August, maybe those fish will be just starting to drop back into schools a little bit more. They've got that breeding instinct, even though they don't breed.
Yeah,
but I think they'll be starting to, hopefully, like as I said, as soon as that weather warms up, they'll just bunch up. It'll be just like fish are appearing from out of nowhere.
Yeah,
they'll be bunching up in schools, because at the moment there's plenty of fish on edges at Somerset. It's just a matter of sort of getting bites, and jerk baits are probably a good way to do that.
Mate, a lot of people know you, of course, from the Australian Fishing Championships. You're one of our early adopters. I think you started in season 2. Explain to the guys watching the show, what the old road trips were like, with that little Carl Jocumsen. Looks like he only just got pubes at that time, mate. He was pretty young, and
he probably doesn't have pubes now.
Probably doesn't. No, they're all up on his neck, mate. They've all come up. Look, tell us, those early days of fishing places like Lenthals before it was wrecked by putting barra in it. Some of those bites were pretty good, weren't they, in those places we visited?
I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's just because you're fishing a little bit closer quarters, but some lakes, to me, they've got a reputation that the bass pull harder, and Lenthals was always one of those. And I think it's because you're fishing that structure, you're using sort of shorter casts, so therefore they play up a little bit more and they tend to get you back into that structure. But I remember that place as just having some really hard pulling bass in it that took a lot of stopping. So I think, AFC days, I was probably fishing 15 or 20 pound braid and 15 litres and stuff, and still getting towed up by fish that just jammed you straight back in there.
Mate, You also you won an AFC event. You never won an AFC trophy. Didn't get the name on the trophy, but you did win an event at Glenbourne, mate. Must have been satisfying to do well away from home. Queenslanders tend to fish pretty well away from home, and you did it in that event.
Yeah, when I used to do those comps way back then, like there was a lot of those trends that were sort of starting to develop, like the way the guys fish now. And I guess I just, every now and then you just go to a lake and you do your own thing. And for quite a few years, I just go and fish spinnerbaits in the treetops. So find a deep treetop, especially early in the morning, and just roll that spinnerbait around about 2 to 4 meters down through the treetop. And just happened to have just a super bite. I think it wouldn't have mattered what lure you threw. The fish were just on at the time. And I know that exactly the same time that I was catching fish in one area of Glenbourne on spinnerbaits, Harry was catching them in a totally different area on soft plastics. And he nailed a heap of fish. And there was just like this little half-hour window where they just chewed their heads off. And I don't know if you'd have all that old footage, but it was just amazing. Like, I don't know how many fish I must have caught. It was like nearly every cast was a fish for a little while. And they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, it was just one of those sessions you'd never forget.
Well, I'll tell you something else I don't forget from that time back on Glenbourne, and it is the most epic bass boat jump shot I think we've ever filmed. Now, if I found the footage, and I haven't looked for it yet, if I found it, it's playing in the cutaway now. But just take me through how you set up that perfect bass boat jump shot. And kids at home, don't try this, because this was 15 years ago. You're allowed to do crazy shit then. You're not allowed to do it anymore.
So I think we might have been following the camera boat. So I was really close sort of to the camera boat. They were throwing a big wake, and I just thought I'd cross the wake, and I think I just might have had it trimmed out a little bit too much, and wasn't really trying for the jump shot. But the funniest thing is that Harry saw the footage. I think you guys played the footage back, and Harry Watson saw that footage, and he didn't want to be outdone. So he went for this super jump shot too, except when he did it, he didn't come off too good. He lost his tackle bag out the back and everything. So, yeah, don't do it at home. It doesn't always end well. Don't be like Harry.
And let me tell you that we definitely switch baited Harry right into that. It's like, let's see what H does when we show him this. And he was just took the bait, swallowed it, and just started head jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kids at home, like if you own a lure company, you might miss the lures as much as you or I who have to buy them, Mate, some other old footage I've got, and I uploaded it on the ABT YouTube site during lockdown, was of you winning one of the first ever Bass Electric Grand Finals. You took yourself home a nice Stessel boat and Yamaha outboard, mate. It was one of several boats you won through your ABT career.
Yeah, I didn't take much money off you, Steve. I just went for the boats.
Yeah, you just went for the boats that you could then sell for cash, and the taxman didn't know about it. I know what you're up to, Mr. Ehrlich. But, mate, in that same old video that's up there, it's got must be about a 15-year-old Carl Jochimson. It's got a Chris George that you could pick up in one hand like this.
I know. I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
And, mate, it shows you what a veteran you are, because you sort of still look pretty similar to you are now. But Carl was definitely only packing about 40 kilos in his clothes then, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he's only a little fella then. And he didn't miss much. He'd always hang around everyone's campsite, and he'd be just taking it all in, and it's paid off for him.
Mate, one of the lures that I have in my collection here is I actually have the actual spinnerbait that you won. I think you won the Bajelke Peterson Bass Pro Grand Final. And I have the actual spinnerbait. The skirt's all disappeared now, but I've actually got your winning spinnerbait in my archival lure collection.
Oh, I was going to say, I was thinking about that the other day, because I think I just put one exactly the same as it in the frame.
Yeah.
Because back then you used to get a frame sort of thing, and you had the badges in it and stuff and photos and, like a little keepsake. It was really good. This was an Ozspin, I think, at the time. Ozspin Baitfish Series spinnerbait.
Yep.
And I can't remember what colour it was.
It was white head. I can't remember what colour the skirt was, but the head was definitely white. It had
like blacky gold in it, or some sort of gold in it, gold fleck. And it had tinsel in it, but I used to pull all the tinsel out.
Here we go. It's in a bag.
You probably went back to the dam and used it.
Bass Grand Final 2004. I'm just going to pull it out. Yeah. It hasn't got a skirt on it anymore. But let's see how accurate your... oh, look, I've got two things here. One, I've got a baby bass tail on a like a damn deep style jig head.
Yeah, that wasn't mine, I don't think.
That mightn't have been yours. Well, this might have been yours.
That was.
That was there. And that...
see how I used to bend the hooks up in them too? That was actually bent like that on purpose. Normally that main hook would be straight, but I used to put a little bend in it. Yeah.
So there you go, mate. It's your signature, and you know that I'm not bullshitting it now, are you?
Yeah. Yep, that's the one.
So there you go, mate. If you want that, I will happily send that to you if you want to
No,
put that in your archival
it's
collection.
okay. It's I remember the start of that comp, and I was really disappointed in myself because I sort of had set myself a goal, like not to compete against the other guys, but just a goal of what I wanted each session. Like I thought, okay, so I want a 45 centimeter average fish, and I went out in that first session. I can't remember. I was coming like 20th, and I thought, oh, I've stuffed it. How am I ever going to get this back? And then the second session, I went to a big fish spot. I already had one big fish, and I went to this big fish spot where I thought that I might have to spend hours to get the bite, but I knew the fish were big. And when I got the bite, it was like a 50 centimeter bass. I think they were both the same weight, 2.2 kilos, both of the big ones. And as that fish, as I was leading it to the net, I was sort of pulling the rod back like that and leading it to the enviro net. And just as it got there, the spinnerbait fell out, and I just done the big scoop and scooped that fish up and threw it in the boat. And I was just doing Toyota leaps. Like I looked like a Toyota ad. I was jumping that high in my boat, and I put that one in the boat because I don't know, I didn't think I was back in it right at that moment. With the session to go, I thought, I've got this. And yeah, that was good confidence booster.
Mate, and it's like you've done enough tournaments to know when it's your time, stuff like that goes right. You know, when it's not your time, that fish falls off, it turns around and it swims away. But when it's your time to win a grand final, it goes straight in the net and it's high fives.
Yeah. I think there was like 3 hours to go in that session still, and I just didn't fire another cast. I just basically pre-fished, found a whole new spot for the last session, and just brained them then because no one had fished that spot.
Well, that's awesome, mate. And look, it's been great to have a chat with a lot of the old time AFC guys through this process. What's your favourite memory from AFC? And I'm going to take out of the equation the tournament you won. I'm going to tell you what my enduring memory of you is. Apart from the boat jump and apart from winning the tournament, it's how you got your nickname, the Colonel.
Oh, right,
And this is because every time we're driving down the coast with AFC, because the Brim and the Bass guys travel together, every time we went a KFC come up, we'd have a joke. I bet you Jace Ehrlich's there. And you know what? Every second time you love your KFC, don't you? Love it.
Yeah. I think I did, I forget what it was, 72 nuggets and 2 large chips. And I bought it at Kingaroy going to Boondooma one time. And that was to last me for a few days. But it was all gone before I got to the dam. So
Mate, another thing I remember we got to a place and you'd actually done the mental arithmetic about how much a bucket of popcorn chicken was going to cost. It was going to cost you $113.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. Don't ever get a bucket of it.
So, Jace, that was my recollection of AFC, mate. What was your favourite moment apart from all the KFC stops?
Oh, we probably already mentioned one of my favourite moments. That was that Glenbourne session because it was already good, but every cast I made, it just kept getting better. But fishing aside, I can remember when we stayed at Kenya and just all the boys got together for a photo, and it's just one of my favourite memories. And you would never see, like, there's just a bunch of guys in the photo, but you'd never see more animals in a photo. Like, Harry's got his snake. I think there's parrots all over the boat because we're feeding the parrots nuts, and then someone's hanging onto a chook. There's just animals everywhere. It was like, yeah,
a menagerie.
Yeah. Awesome. Just those times, just good times with the boys. Yeah.
It seems like we all had a lot more time back then. You know, when I rang up and said, let's spend a couple of weeks filming AFC, everyone's always straight in. Yeah, work will be right, mate. We'll just go and do it.
That's what stopped me comp fishing. It's just work. It's just work nowadays.
Well, mate, I really appreciate your recollections, mate. Thanks for joining us tonight on ABT Lockdown Live, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Steve.